Hi, welcome to Revive Ministries podcast. When this uploads, it'll be Valentine's Day. I know I already heard some cringes already, but this holiday, originally started with the Roman festival. I can't even say that name, Lupercalia. It's supposed to start in the mid-February, but a lot of us know in the U.S. it has morphed into a day where couples express their affections and greetings and gifts. And, the thing is, today we're returning with the same conversation about finding wellness. And I have Shandra. She was here in December, and we have her back for more insight and to touch upon a key points in her book, Damsel in Distress Mindset. Welcome, Shandra, and thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me again.
Well, I always start off with a disclaimer for those who are listening, those who follow me. If you're in crisis, please seek appropriate professional help immediately. The hotline in the United States is 1-800-273-8255. It's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. I do encourage those who are watching, who are listening around the world to find what resources you do have in your area. I always start off with a quote, that, Shandra, and this is no different. And I want you to hear the quote and also how it reads to you personally. And what lessons do you think we can learn from this quote? And without further ado, here's the quote. It says, "Life is about being and becoming, not having and getting." Stephanie Seabrook Hedgepath.
I like this quote because it also takes you back to wellness. There are several dimensions of wellness. It's not just about working out and feeling good, but it's about being and becoming. And once you start to touch all of those, then you won't care about having and getting because you'll have everything you need. And so that's what that quote means to me.
I like the idea of being and becoming because it promotes the idea that if mentality, only if I got this, only if I got this title or this job or this car or this whatever. I feel that mentality is a lot more conducive when it comes to recovery and wellness. In the beginning of your book, and it talks about, and those who are listening, it's the Damsel in Distress Mindset book. It talks about fixed mindset versus growth mindset, and I think the quote before kind of touches upon it. But can you say why that it's important, especially in our wellness of our relationships? Today is Valentine's Day, and I know I already heard some cringes, but go ahead. What would you want to say to those? Because relationships comes in all shapes and forms. So what would you say about that?
Well, first and foremost, we need to understand what's the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset. Simply stated, a fixed mindset is limited. A growth mindset is freedom. And so when it comes to finding wellness in your relationships, for myself, which I talk about in my book, I had a very fixed mindset. And I was very dependent, and I told myself, this is how my life is supposed to be. This is who I am in relationships. But once things happened that changed my life, it was the growth mindset that I adopted in order to be a better person, in order to find healthy relationships.
I was reading this one similar kind of book. It's like there's one therapist was lamenting on during the real estate bubble in 2000s that there was this realtor who was really successful, but then it happened and he lost his job. He wasn't able to produce as much. And I think even though when we think about relationships, we think about people, but his relationship, his job would set his value, set whether he was valuable or not, whether he made the bacon for the for the house or whatever he made. But understand, I felt like during the book it was interesting because he did mention he was able to piece back that his value did not hinge on his title. He was still a capable individual, but just like we all are in 2020 and now 2021 with this whole COVID-19, it is uncertainty that kind of floods all our lives right now, and I feel it's a unique opportunity to address these kind of issues further in your book. And I know, not to minimize, I do like the the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. It's kind of like how relationships are not static.
Right.
I know I have a wife right now, and I know I don't have a perfect equation, Shandra. It doesn't stay the same. It continues to change. And I just like as I continue to change.
Yeah.
One of the chapters I liked is called "Broken Glass Slipper." I think of all those fairy tales, all those things that you kind of all these ideas you may have, and I feel like even though there's been a lot of great, Martin Luther King Day was not that long ago, and there's a lot of growth in like our how you say on our rights, our civil rights per se. But there's some roles because of male and female that are just kind of culturally just dug in, and like for me, I feel I like how you address this and also address the topic that a lot is hard for a lot of us to talk about, domestic violence. And before you share a bit, I just want to tell those who are listening, violence comes in all shapes and sizes. We are all about we're about to talk about domestic violence, but I want to share, if you are in the USA or you're struggling with the domestic violence, there is a number you could call. It's a hotline. It's 1-800-799-SAFE. There's ways, even when you're on the computer, that makes it easy for you to not be seen looking at it, especially if you're living with an individual who is abusing you. So Shandra, can you tell those listening a little bit of what you have learned through domestic violence and about your relationship and your own wellness? I know that's a lot. Wherever you want to go, I'm here. We're just gonna have a conversation, and go ahead, Shandra.
It's okay. So first of all, yes, you totally got it, because some people don't. The broken glass slipper is actually a nod to the most popular damsel in distress. And so it could be anything, but I chose the glass slipper because I just like, it's hard. It's something you have to work towards just to break. And so for me, those broken glass slippers were things, those limiting beliefs, that fixed mindset that put me in certain situations. And I had a traumatic experience where I felt like I hit rock bottom. I lived in a shelter for months, a domestic violence center. And I didn't realize how much of my power I gave away based on that mindset I had. Mm-hmm. And so the shattering of the glass slipper was, this happened in my life, and I could have went back and be in the same situation, or I had to come up with a new mindset. I had to learn new traits. And so when talking about wellness, and as it pertains to domestic violence, relationships are a part of social and emotional wellness, but you have to find that wellness within yourself first, and then you're able to give it to others. And so your partner is there, your partner supports you, your partner cares for you, and that helps you emotionally, but you still have to get to a point of that wellness within, so that you aren't pouring from an empty cup, or you're not straining your partner. I have this conversation freely about domestic violence because I believe in healthy disagreements. And one of my friends was like, what do you mean by healthy? Like, there's a healthy way to fight. Yes. If I am upset with the person I'm dating, I am not going to come in hot and heavy because of the things I've learned now. I take a moment. First, I ask myself, why are you really mad? Are you mad? Are you embarrassed? Are you annoyed? Because sometimes we get upset and there's a emotion over that and under that we're not even seeing. And that all goes with the healthy relationships. And then you have a conversation. When you did this, it made me feel this way. I tell people all the time, violence, physical aggression, belittling, none of that is normal. It should not be a normal part of a situation or a relationship. It is abuse. I have to call you out of your name to get my point across, or physically touch you. That's unhealthy, and it's borderline abuse no matter what party is doing it.
Yeah, and whenever that comes to abuse, there's always this undercurrent of urgency. Like you're saying, you're take moments, take steps, and it's interesting that we talked about fixed mindset and then we talk about growth mindset at the same time because if you're in a fixed mindset, the likelihood of this happening is higher because the thing is you're just stuck. You're stuck because the thing is you can't think. Everything becomes urgent. Everything becomes today is the day. There's no other day, and some life it doesn't work that way. Relationships don't work that way. There's disagreements. For me, I think it's healthy to have disagreements. It's healthy to continue to kind of grow and learn from each other because that's how you build on relationships. You don't build on just being around people you disagree with. I feel like that robs you from the ability. I love being around people I don't agree with sometimes. I learn so much. Initially, I have like this mindset like, oh, I know what's right, Shandra. I know what's right. But really, I started practicing not listening to just the words, but the reasons behind them. And I feel like we can learn a lot from that. So,
Absolutely.
um, what lessons do you still hold on to today? With domestic violence, any abuse. What have you held on today, especially as we're still kind of in this, waiting period of uncertainty.
So very practical lessons. Not back to recovery. Don't argue when you've been drinking, or don't go say, I'm upset, I'm going to go have a drink and then speak to this person. That opens the door to so much. And then another one, a lot of men don't talk about it, but I will put myself out there. You get so mad, like, I'm going to smack him, but you don't understand when you do that, no matter what part you are, you say, this is what we do when we're upset.
Yeah.
When you take the approach of, I'm going to speak to you the first time there's an argument, or after there hasn't been an argument for a while, it's saying, hey, this is how we disagree. And so I still hold on to that lesson today, no matter how upset I am, no matter how much someone's forcing me to talk something out. If I don't feel ready to talk about it, I'm not going to. Especially if I'm extremely upset, because like you said, we're always learning, we're always growing. I don't know everything. I'm not perfect. And so I won't have that situation happen where I'm apologetic for something I said that wasn't even part of the issue. I'll take a step back. And I still hold on to that today. Never anyone's fault for someone to hit you. Like, hear me clearly. I don't care what you say to them to put their hand on you. But on our side, I definitely know for me, I hold on to, I'm not going to talk to this person right now. Or if this person is too upset, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to go to the other room because I just want to avoid that negative confrontation.
Yeah. And I feel as we grow, as we learn to communicate, communication is sometimes looked as like something that we simply do, but we usually don't do. And the thing is, like, really just the urgency is so important. And you talk about, people who may be intoxicated, but I just think behind all that is this urgency, just get it over with. Get over it. I just want to get back to the reset button, but relationships don't work that way. They're hard work, but they're the most precious things in your life, the ones that you're connected to, the good, the bad, the highs, the lows. And part of that is just knowing that I feel like from hearing what you're saying is just going through the process. Relationships is a journey. It's not that we have it all figured out. When you lay it all on the table, saying, listen, I'm sad. I feel sad. I feel ignored. I don't feel like you're really listening to me. Having those conversations, understand, like, there's cultural things to it too, because you're with a person. If it's the romantic relationship, you're coming from a different family, different background, different everything. And sometimes there's a lot of things you have to unlearn yourself and the person themselves, because you're growing as a team together. You know what I mean? And that is being vulnerable. And I think, with this COVID and everything else, we're beginning to know that our connections matter, but so does our boundaries. and understanding to have that room and space when we need it. But
Absolutely.
like I said, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I said I agree 100%. Boundaries is the big word in my
Yeah.
relationship vocabulary. Boundaries, yes.
Yeah. Recovery is a journey. And there's this last quote I just want to share, and this just share what you think, what comes to mind. Obviously I had it more structured before, but I think this one really makes sense to the kind of wrapping up this idea of growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And it reads, courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is that quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. What comes to mind when you hear this? It's pretty, like, when you think of courage, people are like, oh, it's something big or monumental. A lot of times it's not.
It's
So,
not. It's those tiny little steps. Even when it comes to recovery, that one little thing you can do that's different from what you did yesterday takes courage. And in
yeah.
relationships, choosing to say, you know what, let's not talk about this right now. We're too upset. And that's not something huge, but it's something huge. If
Yeah,
that makes any sense, because you having the courage to say that to your mate instead of saying, no, I'm right, let me explain to you why. No, it takes a lot. And like you said, it's the unlearning, because a lot of people, what I found throughout my travels, the majority weren't taught how to fight correctly, weren't taught how to disagree, and still move on. And so that courage to do one thing different, whereas you would have normally addressed it right in front of the person, right when it happened. The courage to say, you know what, I'll talk about this later because we're around people.
Yeah.
Or the courage to say, I'm going to start making my bed every day when I get out of it before I come sit at my desk to work. That's, it's that small little change that will lead to something so much bigger. People always say, how do you build a wall? It's just one brick at a time.
Yeah.
It's one little thing.
Yeah, and I do like the idea that it's the little things that you say. It's the building on and understanding that this is not an only if society when it comes to our relationships. If it's only if, I've lost it a long time ago. We mess up, we make mistakes. When it comes to, I remember you saying before, what I like about having these open conversations with your partner, your friend, whoever, your family, because relationships comes in all shapes and sizes. Obviously, this month is today is Valentine's Day, so it kind of denotes the romantic, but also how you treat sometimes how you treat others really kind of reflect on how you see yourself. A lot of times. So I feel that when we are able to pause and those little steps are big because they're the seeds. They're setting the example. Instead of I'm going to go ahead and refer to violence or hurting, I'm going to actually talk, or I'm going to pause, because a lot of times in life I've learned there's so much urgency to do everything quickly, and that's not how relationships are done. They're not quickly, but they're also the most precious things that I could say, especially those who unfortunately have passed away. They never talk about the things they own or the cars or the house. They talk about the people around them. So with that said, this month's theme is finding wellness in our relationships. How does that speak to you after writing this book versus before? That whole concept. And what do you think have you learned?
So it makes me want to add a chapter that discusses wellness, because people sometimes don't understand the different dimensions. I didn't until starting a job where I worked right in the wellness center. So after just paying attention and thinking about what am I going to say about finding wellness, it definitely makes me want to add more to my book. But then it also gives me more things to speak about as it pertains to my book and relationships, because the relationship with yourself, oh my gosh, the relationship with your spirituality, like all of those things are part of wellness.
Yeah.
And those relationships, and although this is a romantic month, even having your mate and you both understanding that, I'm thinking about that more now when I'm speaking to people about my book. I you want to find that you will have that wellness, but you want wellness in your relationship.
Yes, and I totally agree. This topic sometimes I feel, um, I think sometimes when it gets is a hard topic to talk about, you just go to the simplest part of it.
Simple.
Um, Simple. I just I want to be happy. I want to feel connected with the ones I love. I want to be connected with them healthy. I don't want to be always worried about, and having these fixed mindsets so that block me from any true growth in my friendship, my family, and now my wife. So I know these things are concept, but a lot of times it's rushed upon us because of. But I feel like right now, what I've learned, I think, is that with COVID-19 is a great opportunity to reassess your life in the sense of how your relationships are going. And there's no test, there's no graded thing. It's just where you are at right now. And where would you like to be? I think sometimes at the simplest portion, a lot of us just want to be safe. A lot of us want to be healthy. One of us want to be loved. You could have all this fluff. You could say all these things, but all you really want to be is happy. That's it. When I was a kid, I remember jokingly because it snowed a lot where I'm from in Northwest Jersey. That's where I used to be, and it was like 32 inches. I remember I looked at my dad. I'm like, why is he so grumpy? I get it now. As a kid, I was super happy because I didn't have school and it was snowing. It's funny about perception, but I feel as children, we kind of see what we really want, and that is to be happy and to be loved and to be safe.
Yep.
Thank you, Shandra, for being a guest again. Any final thoughts you'd like to say as we wrap up? And I'd like to tell those who are listening, all the links to her book and everything else she is doing will be added onto in the notes of this episode and everything else. So.
Just about wellness and relationships. At the end of the day, like you said, we all just want to be loved. We all want to just be happy with those people that make us happy. So with that being said, find wellness within yourself. Touch those dimensions so that you're not pouring from an empty cup and you're not stressing your mate out. And so you guys could build your wellness together. And that's reading my book may give you some tips, but just take time with yourself, be patient with yourself, and you'll find that wellness in your relationship.
Again, thank you, Shandra. It's always a pleasure to have you on. I want to share with those who are listening. Remember, you can stay updated with all things Revive Ministries through the various platforms. ReviveMinistriesFL.com is the website. This is goodbye from Revive Ministry Podcast, leaving you with this last quote. It is from Lao Tzu. It says, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step."